Welcome to the MTC Report, the news behind the news with journalist Mark Taylor-Canfield. We offer you independent voices and underreported stories about topics you won't hear anywhere else. Join us as we delve into the deeper issues behind the news stories of the day on the MTC Report.
Push comes to shove and fists fly in a violent clash at MSU. Protesters squared off with supporters of white supremacist Richard Spencer, who was there for a speech. Tonight, Brianne Palmerini reports the ugly scene ended with arrests and injuries in East Lansing.
As attendees for the Richard Spencer speech met the protesters outside of the agricultural pavilion, violence erupted. People from both sides were punching and pushing. Hundreds of police officers were on hand. Armored cars, mounted patrols, police helicopters, and 24 people were arrested. Chants against the police were also a part of the protest. Many protesters felt like the police were working too hard to protect the Spencer supporters. Some protesters covered their faces and refused to speak, but others had a message they wanted to share.
You know, in the airport where they say, if you see something, say something, we're saying something, because this is not right. This is not right.
And this woman holding a sign stating, "Say her name, Heather Heyer."
One of the neo-Nazis drove his car into the crowd and killed her.
Heyer was at the Richard Spencer event in Charlottesville, Virginia. She was protesting the white nationalists when she was run down and killed. That deadly outcome is one of the reasons MSU originally turned down the Spencer request to speak on campus, but the university was sued by Spencer's people for violating free speech. The lawsuit was settled with this event today. News cameras were not allowed inside the pavilion for the event, but it was streamed on Twitter.
We can ultimately measure the power of our words and our deeds by the degree to which we receive opposition.
I don't take away Richard Spencer's right to say what he says, but I also then want to practice my right to come out, challenge it, and oppose it.
People like Dr. Jeffrey Robinson, a pastor and a principal from Detroit, is one of the people who feels the violence shouldn't have happened here, but the protest was needed.
We have to find a better way of talking out our differences than resorting to violence and hurting each other.
24 people were arrested here tonight. Some of them were injured, and about 500 people showed up here to protest, and only about a dozen went inside to see Spencer speak. On campus, Brianne Palmerini, 7 Action News.
All right, thank you so much, Brianne.
Hi, I'm Mark Taylor-Canfield reporting from Seattle, and this is the MTC Report. For those of you who haven't watched the MTC Report before, I'm a journalist and a musician. I've written at the Huffington Post, Daily Kos, Truth Out, the Capitol Hill Times, and other places, and I've reported for Free Speech Radio News on the Pacifica Radio Network. I'm contributing editor for Democracy Watch News and associate editor for the International Collaborative Media Alliance. And you can follow Democracy Watch News on Twitter or Facebook. We cover pro-democracy movements around the world. In this MTC report, I've compiled some excerpts from some of the latest breaking stories regarding Robert Mueller's investigation into the Trump campaign and the current administration in the White House. First of all, let me say that it's obvious that the United States is in dire need of a new pro-democracy movement to bring us out of the current trend toward authoritarianism and our drift into this arbitrary self-serving administration that has currently damaged our international reputation and led to a sense of panic which is now plaguing the country. The subtleties and extremely complex machinations may be difficult for some to follow. It's not easy sometimes to see what is so-called fake news and what is merely partisan politics or what is really happening. The propaganda is thick, and there are many people trying to take advantage of the public's ignorance, attempting to pull the wool over their eyes, so to speak. So neither political party is blameless, of course, and the hyperbole and spin doctoring have become the way we communicate in the U.S. political realm, in the media, and on social networking platforms. And although the information highway is perhaps being blocked by the elimination of net neutrality by the Federal Communications Commission, there's still enough access to data to confuse, exhaust, and fool a lot of people. The free access to personal media platforms like YouTube has led to a plethora of deceiving minds who wish to misdirect and persuade the public that their view of reality is the only one that ultimately matters. All I can say is beware of anyone who claims that they have all the answers. Consumers of media must take responsibility for practicing discernment. It's up to you. You must fact-check the sources you use for information. You have to actively participate in your own education. So anyone who blindly accepts what they're seeing or reading today is both foolhardy and very vulnerable to manipulation from folks who may not have your best interests in mind. And they may not live in your country. Decide for yourself. Keep an open mind. And test the information you receive, though. Try to gain an understanding of what and who are behind the media networks, the YouTube channel. The truth is that if you're lazy, you will get fooled. There's no way around that. No way. In today's marketplace of ideas, it's no holds barred. Don't expect your sources to play by the rules of fair gamesmanship or competition. They want to rule the media platforms and rule your minds. Now, this is not a paranoid rant. It's simply the result of years of deprogramming the media's political, religious, and corporate messages that I've seen. It's my conclusion after practicing journalism for over a decade. I know what's up. Now, given that, there are a few news stories worth commenting on that have been breaking in the U.S. lately, including former Trump campaign aide Sam Nunberg's refusal to comply with a subpoena from Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. Now, Nunberg's brash accusations and protestations have aroused many arguments about political strategy, as well as a lot of debates over questions of legality. Nunberg claims that he's not worried about being held in contempt of court. He says Robert Mueller, quote, won't do anything, unquote, and that he, Nunberg, will not be put in jail. He laughs at the idea. He says Mueller is on a witch hunt, okay, a fishing expedition. However, this is counter to what he had said a few weeks ago on MSNBC. Many of the country's top legal experts, however, disagree with Nunberg's assessment. They see no other alternative for Mueller's investigation at this point but to charge and prosecute Nunberg for his refusal to comply with the orders of a grand jury.
Aide Sam Nunberg has been called before the grand jury, now says he will refuse to go and says he'll refuse to cooperate with handing over any documents. Sam, you joined me on the phone. Are you there?
Hi, Katie. How are you?
Why are you saying no?
Because what they sent me was absolutely ridiculous. They wanted every email I had with Roger Stone and with Steve Bannon. Why should I hand them emails from November 1st, 2015? I was thinking about this today, Katie. I was preparing it. Should I spend 50 hours going over all my emails with Roger and with Steve Bannon? And then they wanted emails that I had with Hope Hicks, with Corey Lewandowski. Are you giving me a break? It's ridiculous.
This is the special counsel. He's investigating Donald Trump. He's investigating interference.
Mr. Mueller, with Mr. Mueller,
you sat with him a week ago or a week and a half ago, and did that make you change your opinion of this investigation, that you don't want to cooperate?
I'm not going to cooperate when they want me to when they want me to come into a grand jury for them to insinuate that Roger Stone was colluding with Julian Assange. Roger is my mentor. Roger's like family to me. I'm not going to do it.
What has happened in the last 24 hours that's made you change your mind on this?
When I was going over everything today, when I looked at the subpoena, this was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. And you know what? I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, as you well know. Katie, do you know that?
You've said it.
I'm not a fan of his. He treated Roger and me very badly, and he screwed us over during the campaign. But, here, when I get a subpoena like this, Roger's right. It's a witch hunt. I mean, Mr. Trump's right. The president's right. It's a witch hunt. And I'm not going to cooperate. What do I have to spend 80 hours going over my emails? that I've had with Steve Bannon and with Roger Stone. What does Bob Mueller need to see my emails when I send Roger and Steve clips and we talk about how much we hate people?
Sam, you were on the campaign early on. You were there when Donald Trump was deciding to announce he wanted to run for president.
Donald Trump did not collude with the Russians. It is the biggest joke to ever think Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. I can tell you, Donald Trump, when he was involved in conservative politics, it did not help his business. Okay? Donald Trump did not want to attack Hillary Clinton early on in the campaign. He only wanted to attack Jeb Bush because it wasn't going to be good for him, and had he not won the primary, he was probably going to endorse Hillary Clinton.
Sam, you were
I'm
on
not
this campaign.
going to go over my emails. I'm not going to spend 80 hours because a bunch of FBI agents and a bunch of U.S. attorneys want me to harass me. And, you know, here's the thing. They've already bankrupted people, Katie. They've bankrupted other people with this. Sean Spicer has big legal bills. Josh Rafael has big legal bills. Everybody has.
Hold on, Sam. You were on our air on MSNBC just last week saying the Russia investigation was not a waste of time. That this was not a waste of taxpayer money.
It's a waste of time. You
were adamant about that. So what has changed? What has changed, Sam, in the last 24 hours or last week where you've decided not to do this?
Subpoena, it was ridiculous to me. The subpoena is absolutely ridiculous. Why should I hand them over every email I've had with Steve Bannon and Roger Stone since November? And you know what? Since November of 2015? Give me a break.
Sam, what about those who might look at this and say you have something to hide, or there's something that you don't want to reveal because now you're saying you're not going to cooperate? What if people think it looks suspicious?
Let them think what they want. Let them think what they want. You know what? I'm the first person to go out here and say I'm not cooperating because it's absolutely ridiculous what they want from me. Katie, should I spend 80 hours going over emails that I've had with Steve Bannon and Roger Stone?
If you're going to defy a grand jury subpoena, are you worried about being held in contempt of court?
Let's see what Mr. Mueller does.
Are you worried about getting arrested?
I think it would be funny if they arrested me.
If you're held in contempt of court, wouldn't you have higher legal bills?
It would be really funny if they wanted to arrest me because I don't want to spend 80 hours going over emails I had with Steve Bannon and Roger Stone.
Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, Hope Hicks. Who else is on the list of emails that they want from you?
Oh, Katie, did I ever communicate with Carter Page? Do you think I communicated with Corey Lewandowski after November 1st? 2015. I mean, Corey was the one who screwed me over and got me fired from the campaign.
What about Keith Schiller? What about Michael Cohen? What about Donald Trump? What about those communications?
I mean, for them to ask me about communications with Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States, you know, Mr. Mueller, that is over the hill. That is too much for Mr. Mueller to ask for.
Sam,
it's ridiculous.
Sam, let me ask a question. Don't interrupt. You were on the campaign early on. You left early, as you just said. You said Corey Lewandowski helped get you fired. But you were there when Donald Trump was deciding whether he was going to run for president and why he was going to run for president and what sort of positions he would hold when he decided to run for president. Wouldn't the special counsel be interested in finding out what you know about that time early on?
Yeah, they asked about it.
What did they ask
about it? And it was ridiculous.
What did they ask?
Because I can tell you, once again, Katie, Donald Trump being involved in conservative politics was not good for his business. By the way, I think my lawyer's going to dump me right now.
Why? What did they ask you about Donald Trump taking policy positions early on?
They asked me if Donald Trump took positions, and he flat out told me he was taking positions because of his business. And I will tell you, he never told me that. He did not.
What else have they been asking you?
You know what they asked, which was ridiculous to me? They asked things like, did you hear people speaking Russian in the Trump office.
Who?
Katie, I did not hear people speaking Russian in the Trump office, okay? That's ridiculous. They asked things like,
Keep going.
They asked things like, did you hear about Trump Tower in Moscow? No, I never heard about Trump Tower in Moscow. Never heard about it once. And I can tell you, Katie, that you're not going to like to hear this. Your audience isn't going to like to hear this. But when Donald Trump took positions where he said that Vladimir Putin was better off fighting Syria against ISIS compared to Barack Obama, he was right. Because you don't remember this, or you don't want to talk about it, but ISIS was chopping Americans' heads off. And Trump was right about it. He was intuitively right about it. I don't know what
I'll leave your allegations
after...
against me and the viewers of this network to the side.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But I would like to ask this. A GOP primary would not have been a fan of Russia or Vladimir Putin. It was not a popular opinion to be friendly towards Russia or Putin among Republicans very early on. Why is it not relevant for the special counsel to ask why Donald Trump was so friendly to Vladimir Putin early on? It confused a whole lot of people back then, and he's still pretty friendly to them. It's confusing a whole lot of people now.
Well, by the way, Katie, I agree with you, and I think Trump has made a major mistake. I think that Vladimir Putin should face serious consequences for what he did during the election. But what I've also said to you, and I've said repeatedly, is Trump was more than... If Vladimir Putin wanted to release Hillary Clinton's emails, oh, by the way, she should have protected her emails, it's fine. It's fine to me. And if Trump wanted to get that out, and remember, you asked that question to him. If Trump wanted to get those emails out, that's fine. Because she should have protected her emails. And do you think Russia was the only one who stole her emails? Do you think Russia was the only one who hacked her emails? Do you think China didn't? Do you think that India didn't? Do you think that Israel didn't? Of course they did.
Sam, I'm still pretty curious, since you yourself had gone on the record on our network saying that this investigation was not a waste of taxpayer money, that this investigation was going along in a professional way, why you would decide to do this all of a sudden, and why you would decide it, I imagine,
well, have you seen the subpoena?
against the advice of your own lawyer. I imagine your lawyer's telling you not to rip up a subpoena.
Yeah, he's probably not. And
so
I think
why
Bob
are you
Mueller
doing
will
it?
be because I'm not going to produce them every email I had with Steve Bannon and Roger Stone from November 1 of 2015. What do I have to produce them, all my communications?
Are you ready to go to jail?
Ridiculous. I'm not going to go to jail.
How do you know you're not going to go to jail? If you're held in contempt of court, you're very publicly snubbing your nose at the special counsel and this investigation. I imagine if they don't do anything for you, they would allow anyone else to snub their nose at this investigation. All sorts of people who are being interviewed or potentially would go in front of the grand jury.
Katie, maybe people should start stubbing their nose at it, because the way they're asking for communications that I had with Steve Bannon, with Roger Stone, to me is too much. They want me to go in this Friday, and they want me to go in and they want me to testify against my mentor, who did nothing. He did nothing wrong, Roger. Okay? He did nothing wrong. In fact, he was treated terribly by Donald Trump. And by the way, we cost him a lot of money, Roger and me.
Sam, did you find an email in the last 24 hours that made you worried? An email you didn't want to hand over?
Not at all.
A text message you didn't want to hand over?
Did somebody just send you that question, by the way, into your ear?
No, it's a question I came up with off the top of my head.
It's a very good question. No, I did not. I did not at all. And in fact, you know what I did, Katie? I did not go over any of my emails since I've been contacted by them. And you know what the other thing, Katie, that really upset me? was not upset me, was I was very low on this list, okay? I got to spend 50 grand on legal fees. And I was very low on this list. And then suddenly when they called me, you know when they called me, Katie? After Michael Wolff's book came out. And they asked me a bunch of things in there about Roger and me after we were fired. And as you remember, when you covered that campaign, Katie, Roger and me were treated terribly. And trust me, we weren't colluding with Trump. It wasn't some smart idea that we had for us to be fired, and then we were going to get the emails from Russia. If Roger and me were there, Katie, we would have had the Benghazi parents there at the first debate. We would have had Bill Clinton's illegitimate black child there at the second debate. And we would have had the women there.
Sam, hold on. Sam, hold on. What you're doing is surprising, to say the least. But you sat there in that room being questioned by Mueller's investigators. I want to hear directly from you. Do you think that they have something on the president?
I think they may.
What?
I think that he may have done something during the election, but I don't know that for
Why
sure.
do you think that?
I can't explain it unless you were in there.
Explain the atmosphere.
The way they asked questions about anything I heard after I was fired from the campaign to the general election to even November 1, it insinuated to me that he may have done something.
If you got that sense from the special counsel's investigators, why would you not want to cooperate with them if you got a sense that something happened?
I'm not interested in handing all my emails over that I've communicated with Steve Bannon, with other people, and with Roger Stone. I'm not interested in it. And I'm not interested in them insinuating that Roger did something bad.
Sam, I want to be I want to be clear. I want to be very clear. Has anybody at all contacted you in the last few days, the last 24 hours, to encourage you not to talk to the special counsel, or to tell you not to talk to the special counsel, or to give you a reason why it would not behoove you to talk to the special counsel?
I decided this, Katie.
I'm sorry, the grand jury.
A couple hours ago, I decided this when I was going over all my emails. And I was going over how long and arduous this process was going to be. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. Why do I have to give Bob Mueller my emails, my random emails with Steve Bannon and Roger Stone?
Sam, has anybody from the Trump White House contacted you?
No.
Has the president contacted you?
No.
Has anybody from Trump's legal team contacted you?
No.
Has Roger Stone told you not to go talk to the grand jury?
No.
Has Steve Bannon told you not to go talk to the grand jury?
No.
Has anybody at all told you not to go talk to the grand jury?
I spoke to Steve Bannon for the first time last week after I went in there, and I spoke to him, and Steve and I were discussing about how we both feel, Katie, like I'm telling you, that Trump may have very well done something during the election. I don't know what it is. I could be wrong, by the way.
Sam Nunberg, remarkable. Thank you very much for calling in.
What's remarkable about this, by the way?
Everything's remarkable about it, Sam.
You called me, correct?
It's all unbelievable, I'd say.
What do you think Mueller's going to do to me?
I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. But I imagine, given the circumstances, you might be held in contempt of court. We'll see.
If I'm held in contempt of court, because I don't want to communicate what Roger Stone and Steve Bannon and I talked about since November 1 of 2015.
It's also Keith Schiller and Michael Cohen and Hope Hicks and Corey Lewandowski and Donald Trump and Rick Gates and Paul Manafort.
Do you think I had any contact with Carter Page?
Sam, I don't know. Sam, I don't know.
Well, the answer is no.
Sam, thank you for calling in. It's 3 o'clock. I've got to hand things over to Casey Hunt. Come back live on our show tomorrow if you can, or come back on our air at 5 o'clock today.
Okay.
I'm sure she can hear you. Sam Nunberg, thank you very much.
Welcome to the MTC Report, the news behind the news with journalist Mark Taylor-Canfield. We offer you independent voices and underreported stories about topics you won't hear anywhere else. Join us as we delve into the deeper issues behind the news stories of the day on the MTC Report.
Don't go anywhere. The MTC Report with Mark Taylor-Canfield continues next.
My comment about all this comes from my understanding of how the idea of a republic came about during the 1st century AD in Rome to begin with. Yes, that civilization is known for its inhumanity and brutishness on many levels, and the extreme abuse of power by some of its dictators and emperors, which is these days very instructive looking at the Trump administration. But like it or not, it's also where our founding fathers got their ideas about democracy. So, simply stated, after throwing off the yoke of corrupt kings and an entrenched self-serving oligarchy, the citizens of Rome created the Republic based on the idea that government affairs should be public in nature, that they should be transparent, instead of decisions made by powerful and highly unethical rulers behind closed doors. Democracy needs transparency. And democracy doesn't simply mean freedom from tyranny and protection from individual rights. That is a part of the picture. But it also means that members of the general public must take some responsibility for ruling themselves, instead of just growing apathetic and lazy and therefore relying on power elites to do the job for them. You see, each citizen is thus obligated to participate in his or her own governance. It means that they must engage in civil debate and elect qualified representatives to those seats of power. You see, each one of us must take that responsibility, because if we don't, then sure enough, you can bet that a very small, powerful group of very wealthy people will do that for you. And this is what we've been seeing in the United States for decades now. So I hope you enjoyed this program. If you like it, please do the usual. Subscribe to our channel. We now have over 370 original uploaded videos, so we've been busy. And I hope you appreciate what we're doing, trying to call out corruption and call for transparency and democracy in this society. It's high time that some of the high ideals and principles of the Enlightenment, which were part of the reason that this country was founded, it's high time that we bring those ideas back and that we practice those principles of self-governance and democracy, and stop letting corporations and their bought and sold politicians run everything for us, because it's not working, okay? That's very obvious. So once again, this is Mark Taylor-Canfield. This is the MTC Report. You can also follow me at Twitter and on Facebook. I'm always out there doing something. I also have a series of radio plays, a tribute to the old classic radio series, and it's called Nick Savage, Private Eye. It's set in Seattle in 1947, and I play the private detective in that series. So you can check that out on my channel. Also, there's lots of animations, political satire, and a bunch of my music. I also have a band, and I also do DJ music, so I'm busy out there trying to be creative and create things that help other people and maybe make other folks' life a little bit more interesting and fun. And also informed. That's mostly what I think journalists need to be doing, is helping educate the public. That's a big part of our job. And I do believe in that motto, despite, despite what Mr. Stevens said, the editorialist in the New York Times, I do believe that it is a journalist's job to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. So please like this video if you appreciate what we're doing here, and share it with your friends and family, and let everybody know what we're doing, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you next time. This is Mark Taylor-Canfield from Seattle for the MTC Report.